Social, and it will be available as we publish this interview on the podcast, it will be ready to go. So just want to introduce Ted Conier and Mark Babbitt. Ted is the founder of Switch and Shift, 3-time CEO, and you may have seen him on the top influencers list from the Huffington Post and Forbes. Mark Babbitt is the CEO of U-Turn, president of Switch and Shift, and Forbes and Mashable top websites for your career. Just want to welcome both of you gentlemen.
Mark, it's a real pleasure, but if you call me gentleman one more time, we're going to have issues.
I always assume the best.
Well, that's a heck of a way to start a conversation. Mark, thanks very much for having us on. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast again.
Well, yes, it is. It's the second time for you. And not to mention that you've also have suggested some guests that have been on, such as Coach Jenny and Lisa Rangel. And once again, thank you for that. Great guests as well. We're here talking about a world gone social, and want to dive right into it because we just don't know how long Mr. Wi-Fi is going to last here. So, as I started reading your book, I thought about, okay, businesses and job seekers should be more social, and perhaps small businesses should be less media. Yet I'm finding myself seeing more social than I kind of become the media. And maybe, Ted, you can start off. Am I too far from this point?
No, I love that. So we've got really what we've been witnessing for years now is the democratization of everything, which is just a wonderful thing. You know, the class society that we had in the United States has broken down over the generations. Where we're all kind of middle class and proud of it now. There's none of that nose in the air stuff, and at least hopefully not too much. And the same thing, the democratization of our society. Well, it's going on with media, where before we used to sit down in front of the boob tube and let the people have control of our eyes and part of our brains every night. Now we're making the media all day and all night, and it's just much more interesting. It's a more exciting time to be alive.
Yes, and everybody has access to the same platform, maybe not to the same audience, but at least to the same platform. What is your take on this, Mark?
Well, I think the more social we are, the more our message is heard and certainly resonates with our audience, the more we do become the media. And I think that's okay, because 10 years ago that wasn't even possible, right? You had to be a member of the traditional media to be heard, or you had to do social media, and now we all have a voice, right? Whether it's a YouTube channel or an Instagram account or a tweet, we all have the opportunity to be heard. And the best part about social is if your message really resonates with the audience, then through retweets and shares and other people posting and other people contributing to the conversation, that voice is amplified. So eventually, Mark, and you're a great example of this with your podcast and your blog and all of your work, you do become part of the media, when you hit a certain plateau. And I think that's important because I think we all have something important to say, and we all have people that want to listen to us that need our expertise, that need our mentorship, and so it kind of all comes full circle to where, yes, the more you're social, the more you become part of the media.
And so, Ted, as I'm understanding it as well, and something that really, as I read the first couple of chapters of the book, I began to think there's, businesses and job seekers are going to pass each other in one way or another. The job seeker wants to have a broader message, a larger audience than when he first started out. It may not be massive. Sometimes it ends up that way. However, for the business to become human and more appealing to the one or the many, you have to kind of dwindle down and talk to the one. Is that a good assessment?
Absolutely, and that hits on the head what we mean by more social, less media. So the idea isn't that there's going to be, less media. Media pervades our lives now more than it ever has before. But what we mean by that is stop broadcasting. If you're a brand or if you're an individual, don't just send out tweets and put up Facebook posts and never interact with the people who are following you, who are your friends, whatever the term is for that platform. Say hello, interact. When somebody shares your stuff and says this is a great post, say something back to them, like, thank you, or what did you like about it, or something like that. Brands need to do this just as much as individual humans, and the funny thing is some brands really get it, they nail it, and we highlight them in the book, and we congratulate them. And other brands are just so stiff that people just don't care about them. And they move on to the ones that are engaged in conversation. And so you may be active and showing no ROI on social media. Well, you know what? It's because you're doing it wrong. You want ROI? How about how many people have you talked to today? If the answer is none, I've been talking at thousands. Okay, maybe we can find a replacement for the social media manager.
And that becomes more, I think that, and Mark, you can address this, job seekers are looking to amplify their message, and one of the ways that they're going to be heard is that they have access to the one, and it is kind of one at a time, and you can't do it any other way. But you want to do one at a time so that you can get to as many as possible. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes a ton of sense. But I'll tell you, Mark, and you and I have had this discussion before. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest fallacies of, especially for job seekers, careers, people looking for their first or next job or an internship, is they start broadcasting. They start throwing stuff up against the wall without first establishing what their value is, what their niche is, what are you an expert at? What is that one thing you do really, really well? And does that one thing align closely with the audience that you're trying to appeal to right now, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're a rocket scientist or somebody's hiring a warehouseman, right? So everything has to be aligned. And then once you build that foundation, then Mark, and by the way, this is the same for companies, brands, Fortune 100 companies, and job seekers, is you have to have some social proof, right? You can't talk about how passionate you are about accounting, and then there's nothing in your profile about it, nothing in your tweets about it, nothing in your posts about it. It's clearly just a job to you. Well, if you've applied for the same job as somebody else who's retweeting, sharing posts from the Big Four, new accounting methods, the newest software, doing reviews of handheld devices that that serve the niche, right? That is social proof. All of that together is proof that you are truly engaged in your brand and you believe very much in what you're branding. And without that, it's all just talk. We say it in the book. We say it a lot in our consulting lives, Ted and I. What we say about us is marketing or selling. What other people say about us, what our social profile says about us, that's branding. And there's a big difference. At some point, we have to stop talking and start proving that we actually care about how we're branding ourselves.
And Ted, isn't that part of the mystery, or the perceived mystery, is that big companies think, well, I don't need to prove. We've been selling for years, way before all this social networking has come along. And the job seekers says, well, I haven't needed social media before. I was unemployed, in the past few years. What's the difference? So, generally we're talking about it's become a mystery of sorts. Has the mystery of being online and having that choice been taken? Has it been taken out yet? Has the mystery been deleted from our lives yet?
Well, this is a journey, a process for each individual person and for each brand as they figure it out for themselves. You've got to first of all just get involved, do it. My first time on my first time on social was LinkedIn. I signed up and then didn't really get much out of it, and then a few years later, Facebook, and okay, that was fine. I got back in touch with my college buddies, and then I got on Twitter. And let me tell you, I loved Twitter from the very first hour I was on there, just playing around, meeting people. But I wasn't good at it. I just did it, and I picked things up because I stuck at it and I learned about it. And that's the same thing that everyone else is going to go through the same arc. If you're a brand, you're going to have some clumsy mistakes, and you can, of course, hire somebody to advise you, right? Or find people within your organization who can advise you. And if you're an individual, at first you're going to just plain make some mistakes that are faux pas to people who've been doing it for a while. But that's okay, because you know what? The nice thing about social is it kind of like disappears over time. People are talking about new things. So you can, while you're, the things you do never go away, at the same time, if it wasn't a big deal, people move on, and that's fine. So
Sure.
everyone has got to just get involved. And my advice to any brand and any individual is start building your social presence long before you need it. Long before you need it. If you find you need it right now, okay, never mind, do some catch up. But if you are happy with your job right now, build your social presence anyway, because maybe 10 years from now something will change, and you'll wish you had it. So start now.
So, Mark, you and I have talked about before, offline and through different venues, about the importance of having an online reputation and having a sound one. Not necessarily perfect, and I think Ted kind of covered that part. But is it now that that we can now look at ourselves as a true work in process, not just in what we say, but also in what we do?
Well, yes, and that's true on at many different levels. As Ted said, we're all learning, right? There hasn't been a person or a brand in the world that didn't regret a tweet or a post. There isn't a person in the world that hasn't at some time been a drama queen or a diva or a troll, right? And then wish they could take it back. But there's a positive side to it too, right? If we are lacking a certain skill or a certain trait or a certain technical aspect that's important to our careers, we can go online and we can learn that, and we can do that in a very short amount of time. MOOCs, Khan Academy, Coursera, open online course, everything. We can use digital means to self-learn, and we can reinvent a brand in a month. I mean, you could sit down, take a job seeker, for example, Mark. A job seeker can sit down and say, I have been struggling. The employers do not think that I'm employable right now, or at least not compared to my competition. They tell me that I'm lacking this skill, this one, and that one. And I need to learn this software program and that one. And you can go, in 30 days from now, you can have mastered those and show social proof online and be proud of your accomplishments and prove to the world, even to the companies you've already applied for and been turned down for. You can prove to them, look, I'm coachable. I hustle. I am constantly learning. I'm constantly improving myself, and I'm ready to show that to you. And so there's a good side to this, and and there's certainly a bad side. But let's focus on the good. Let's use the tools we have available to us to improve ourselves, to improve our position.
Great, and that is so true. And I think this has been a journey for a lot of us who've been doing this for the past 4 or 5 years and longer. Probably we can go back even further if we want to, but really this is the day and age where people have short memories, or that they're more forgiving of missteps from anyone and everyone. So we're all human, which kind of brings me to a shift in the conversation a little bit. You know, in Business 101, they told us to, whenever you talk about your company, you say always talk about in the we. Don't say I, it's we. I think now that is kind of shifted in some sense when it comes to small business. And the opposite for job seekers, you want to talk about the we as well as the I. So do you think that is an important shift to being more social?
Well, I think that as we, it's different. Mark, you're right. The advice used to be always talk about we, right? We didn't want to be me centered, right? And that's because a lot of, especially in the career world, we collectively took credit for things that I didn't personally do, right? And recruiters started kind of seeing through that. And so your resume says that you increased sales by 132% last quarter, and then the recruiter asks you about that, exactly how you went about that, and you don't have a good answer. Well, it's assumed that you took credit for the we work and not the me work. And I think what people want to see now, and by the way, I'm still a big believer in the we thing. I want you to know that I was part of a team. I want you to know that I valued my team members and their contributions. But from a personal branding point of view, if you overemphasize the we, then a recruiter, a hiring manager, HR, they're going to wonder how much me was involved, and we have to be very specific about that. And that's a leap, right? That's different than probably what we were brought up to believe. And then, but again, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there was too much me, right? All anybody cared about was me. So maybe we overcompensated. But now, with social, you need to have a personal brand that is exactly that. It's you. It's what you stand for. It's your value. It's your ability to solve whatever problem an employer or a customer is trying to fix. And people hire us for that ability, right? They also want us to fit in with a team, the we. They want us to be good at the we, but they really want to know about the me first. So especially with social branding, the me, yes, is very important right now.
So, Ted, in your perspective, would companies, in shrinking their view and making themselves more human, so to speak, are they to? How would they come from broadcasting a message and communicate value on a one-to-one level other than buy my stuff, buy my stuff?
So that's a really good question. For instance, the guy who wrote the foreword to our book is Peter Aceto. He's the CEO of Tangerine, used to be ING Direct in Canada. Okay. Now, Peter is on social, has been for years, and that's how we met him. So it was a real natural ask, first of all, because the guy's so out there and he's so, mingling with everybody. But here's the thing. He represents his brand. He knows that. His Twitter handle is now his name, but it used to be CEO at ING Direct, okay? And Peter was proud of his company. He's representing his company, but he's talking to people on social all the time as an individual. He is an individual and a brand simultaneously. Another example in our book, which is wonderful, is the SAP Business Innovation blog. The avatar, the picture for that blog on Twitter is a person's picture. And I just had a meeting with her the other day. So her name is Lindsay Lamanna, and she's, it says SAP Business Innovation, but it's a person. And man, that's personable. That's the kind of brand that I want to follow and not ignore. And sure, if she's just broadcasting, and it's not really a person, then I'm going to just stop following her at some point and stop paying attention, right? But no, she doesn't. She interacts. This is the me versus we, and it's not really versus. It's being, choosing the right one at the right time. Not being stiff and formal, not grabbing all the credit, kind of in between.
And you know, by someone being that interactive and interested more in what others are interested in, makes you more appealing. Of course, that's a very natural part of friendship building, and so they feel like you know this person, this brand, really cares.
Exactly. Exactly. If the brand doesn't care, who cares what they sell? Because somebody else sells that same thing.
Or even if it was a customer service person, that person is also, until they meet the CEO, they're the brand too.
Yeah.
Well, that's an important aspect of this conversation, Mark. Is even if you work for a really, really crappy brand, you can still do good work personally, right?
Yeah.
You can still be known as a solutions provider, as a person who steps up to meet challenges. Even if you work for a cable company or a phone company or any number of people on the most hated companies list, you can still build your personal brand within that environment and deliberately be different. Be bold enough to say, you know what, I know I'm not in a great situation right now, but I'm gonna make a difference, and I'm gonna serve my customers well. It's not the cable company's customers, not the phone company's customers. I'm here to serve this person well. That's going to be my brand, and that's how social has made such a huge impact. Because before we just show up at work, put the headset on, go to the call center, follow the script, blah blah blah. Now we're actually engaging with people on Twitter and Facebook, and we're dealing with real-time, real-world problems. And when we take that on, when we take that problem on, as if to say, doesn't matter what the script might have told me to say, I'm going to go fix this problem. Your brand just goes through the roof, and it shows. It shows in your confidence. It shows in your leadership. It shows in your testimonials. It shows on your LinkedIn page, in your endorsements, and everything else. It shows, and so you have to kind of own it. You have to, no matter what your circumstance is, you have to rise above that and carve out your own niche.
And you know, in telling job seekers that and consulting with job seekers a lot, I think you know it's how you think of yourself in those moments. I mean, if you don't think that, if you're in the call center, if you don't think that you're a part of it, then, you know, for many years it went undetected. I think that's being seen a lot more now because in this social age, you have to be somewhat transparent. I messed up. I'm sorry I did not follow up. Or, you know, otherwise you get harassed. And you become then a part of the problem. And you can have two problems. One is with the public, and the other one's with your boss. So, having said that, how important is your voice going to be in the social space? If or better yet, let me ask, what are the benefits of having the right voice and resonating in the right way in this social atmosphere now, being that everybody's on the same platforms and everybody's trying to stand out in a positive way, I'm sure, in some kind of way. There are some people who want to approach this negatively, but how important is that voice to the individual and to the brands? Ted?
Okay. Yeah. No. I'll be happy to jump in. So here's the thing. You know, everyone has a choice every day when they wake up. I can go to work and do the best I can no matter my situation, or I can just, you know, forget it. Even if you honestly hate your company, bring some pride to work because it'll make you feel better. And if you can help customers who are genuinely unhappy because, let's be honest, the company stinks and it doesn't care about the customers, you know what? You can make them have a positive experience. Maybe they're trapped. There's a limited, you know, monopoly in their area, or there's two bad choices, and that's it. You know, done. Two choices. So we have a really good example. Actually, another social leader is Frank Eliason. Now, people are stuck with their cable company. Let's face it, your cable company in your area, that's probably your only choice for cable. So he was working for Comcast, and he just wanted to get online, see what it was all about. He jumped in, he started helping people. The only thing people love more than bashing a brand is when the brand shows some humanity. Because let's face it, what would be better than, your bank has been terrible for years and all of a sudden it's nice? Wow, I forgive it. Done. So same thing with the cable company. If there's a person who actually cares about me at that cable company, all is forgiven. Let's move forward. So that's his experience. Did he turn the brand around? Not completely, no. Not even by a long shot, and now he's not even there. But the fact of the matter is, he made a choice to be a human, to care, to put his all into the job because, you know what? He saw there are people there. Let me help those people, and that'll make me have a better day. And that anyone can do, no matter their situation. Don't focus on your terrible boss. Focus on your wonderful customers who need your help.
Yeah,
Mark, if you don't mind, I'm going to add on to that, because here's the reality: is by taking these steps that we're describing here, you become infinitely employable, right? You, by being known as that problem solver, by getting those testimonials on your LinkedIn account, by achieving certain standards within your company that you can then put on your resume as quantifiable achievements, you become amazingly employable. And that's good, because at a lot of these companies, they're not going to stop sucking, right? They're not going to stop, right? But you've built your brand. You've built your online reputation. You've carved out your niche. Now, go take that to a company whose culture actually shows that they consistently care, and that they are willing to do the right thing. Go to Zappos, go to the Container Store, go to Panera Bread, go to a company where your talent for problem solving is going to be rewarded, and you're set for life, right? Don't stick with a company that sucks. You get to choose too, right? As you're building your brand, or certainly after you've established it, you get to pick and choose who you work with and for. So maybe the company you're working for isn't all roses and rainbows and puppy dogs, but the next company might be, and you have to make a good showing so you can move on.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, that comes to the end of our conversation. Again, the book, A World Gone Social. Mark and Ted, thank you very much for joining us here at the Voice of Job Seekers. And if you have any questions, if someone wants to engage either one of you, Ted, where can they reach you, and how should they contact you?
Actually, so aworldgonesocial.com has all of our information right there. I'm most often found on Twitter, so my Twitter handle's right there with the link to it, just to make it easy for everybody. And I also spend an awful lot of time at Switch and Shift. It's a whole community full of people, so going to switchandshift.com is a great way to meet not just me, but some truly extraordinary thinkers.
Yep. And Mark, is probably the same information.
Same information, and of course my day job besides Switch and Shift is U-Turn, the online talent community, and you can always find me or us there. U-Turn, YOUTERN is our Twitter handle.
Awesome. Gentlemen, thank you so much. And that is the end of our conversation. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact, of course, the voiceofjobseekers.com for your information. I'm just going to end the show right here while we're here. And so you all have a great week, and we'll see you next week.